Good morning, everyone. How are you doing today? So glad to be here with you again for Coffee Time Career Chat. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. If this is your first time joining us, again, welcome. My name is Patricia Hayes. I am an executive advisor, career empowerment coach, and authentic networking strategist. And what that means is that I love helping people as they are transitioning in their professional situations and careers, whether it's a business, whether it's, a long-term career, short-term career, but helping them to do so in a much more empowered way so that they can be stronger advocates for themselves, and ultimately also making sure that they utilize the most underutilized resource, and that is that of their professional networks. And so helping people to connect and reconnect with their professional relationships so that they can be used purposefully, aligned with their values, and to help them, build forward in their careers and their businesses. So welcome. As we stated, this is, oh my gosh, this is the month of May, and we are kicking off with not so formal a series, but a little bit of series. So, a couple of thoughts, and again, things that have popped up with clients, with people that I'm getting phone calls from. And so, I love taking that as the inspiration for what to do next. And what to discuss next, because it keeps it relevant, right? And keeps it on topic for what people are actually facing today. And so today's topic is career transitioning with confidence. And this can be one of those two-edged swords, right? Because people can be like, well, yeah, I mean, I'm fine. I'm doing just fine. And, or, either depending on where they are in their process, right? So if they're just starting, or if you're not looking because you have to, like you've got a pretty secure job, but maybe you're looking to up level, versus the person who perhaps is unemployed or underemployed. And so there's a greater sense of urgency, and there's a lot of pressure there. And here's the thing, either way, there is a way for you to transition with confidence to the next level of who you want to be professionally. And so here's the thing, whether you're young or not so young, more experienced or less experienced, confidence is key. And it's really crucial as you move through a transition of any sort. That's one of the key things you have to recognize, right? You have to be able to maintain some level of confidence in yourself, confidence in your abilities. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But really, maintain that confidence. So here's what confidence is not. Confidence in and of itself is not confirmation that you have a job or that you're going to get it, right? That's what people unfortunately will align it with. So if they're moving along in a process and they like, oh, it looks like I'm going to get this one, so they feel better about things, and then they don't, so then they get deflated. Well, does that mean that they shouldn't maintain a level of confidence in who they are and what they can do? Absolutely not. All right. The confidence comes before the confirmation. So I want you to think about that. Confidence comes before the confirmation. And we're going to talk about how you can make that happen and make that be today. So, the first thing that helps you to build the confidence you need for the transition that you're either in already or that you are preparing to enter, is to remember to actually know your skill set and believe in it. I am always surprised when I talk to people, and and especially women, like this is documented. So this is not something I'm just taking off the top of my head, but there's tons and tons of research about women in particular looking at a job description. And if they don't meet all 10, then they like, oh, I shouldn't apply for that job because I'm not qualified for it, right? Versus a man who may look at 5 and be like, yeah, let me go for it. Here's where, and I don't say this often, and you won't, so write it down because I'm not going to say it often. But this is where a woman might want to take on a little bit of that mindset of being a man, in terms of that level of confidence, because we could say it's a little cocky too, that's a whole other conversation, but that level of confidence of looking at something and knowing that even if you don't meet all of the quote requirements on the paper, that you do have the skill sets, you do have the transferable skills in order to meet the job requirements, in order to achieve what they want. I was literally just reading an article yesterday that's talking about this crazy employment market that we're in currently, and how recruiters are just like, going off the walls with the different offers about how they're coming back after people that were previously rejected. And there was one story that stuck out where a person who had been, quite frankly, kind of looked over initially because they didn't meet all of the quote requirements on paper. But then they circled back around because, oh my gosh, they've got to fill these positions. And they, and upon further conversation, they were able to determine that yes, this person did have the skills that they need, and that they were able to take on more things besides what's just on paper, right? Your attitude, your approach, how you handle situations. And again, you can only get to that if you're actually having a conversation with people. So that's why I tell people, do not underestimate your own skill sets. Okay? Do not underestimate what it is how you know it, how you came to know it, because those experiences are all a part of who you are as a professional. We can both say that we've served on a number of boards, but the types of boards, how you got to them, all of that can bring about a completely different story. So don't underutilize that. Do not underestimate that. It's really what I want to say. Do not underestimate that. So often we underestimate the power of the skills that we learn in our volunteer time. Oh my gosh. I'm like, I know personally that, I'm very committed to work in the community, and I always have been. And so whether I was volunteering for something as a young person way back when and taking on leadership responsibilities versus all the way to, after I've had kids and, all of the volunteer stuff really pops up, once you've had children. But I literally could create a sustainable resume simply off of the resume of the volunteer work that I've done over time. Because some of the lessons that I've learned in my volunteer work are way better, more powerful than maybe I've been in my jobs that I've gotten quote paid for. All right. Learning how to navigate, a group of volunteers, how to address resource issues and the lack of them in the course of, trying to get a major project accomplished. Right. I could go on and on. I mean, like literally, my volunteer work can show so many of the skills that rival that of what I've done professionally. Do not underestimate that. This is why you have to know who you are and what you've done and believe in it. Okay. And don't underestimate, say, oh, well, that's not going to matter because I wasn't getting paid to do that. That's actually even more reason to make sure to bring it to light, to bring it up, because you weren't getting paid and you were still able to produce a great product, a great event, pull people together, whatever it is. So I always, always, always ask people to flesh it out. When I'm working with people one-on-one, what I'm not doing is focusing on say, the resume. Like I'm not the career coach that you come to just to get your resume fixed. That's not me. I know wonderful people who do that, and I will send you to them if that's all you want. However, if we're working one-on-one and we are recrafting who you are, rebranding who you are, taking a fuller look at who you are so you can present yourself fully in your next professional gig, then we are going to probably take a look at your resume to make sure that it matches who you say you are and what you're trying to be and do. All that to say, I have been amazed at the number of times that I have worked with folks who come to me and they've literally left off half of their work experience. And I'm like, how do you do that? And they're like, well, they said to leave it limited uh to one page or two page. And I'm just like, and so you understand you do not fully represent who you are when you do that. This is when I have a disagreement with one of those still conventional wisdom things out there about, keeping your resume as short as possible and all that. Here's the thing. If I have 30 years of work experience, both professionally and in the community, there's no way the work that I have done is accurately reflected in a two-page resume. Literally, just getting the titles of what I've done on the pages is what might make it onto that two pages. All right. There are times when you have to go against conventional wisdom, challenge it some. And guess what? If somebody is griping at you because you made your resume a little bit longer than what they wanted it without looking at the content of it, perhaps that's not going to be a good place or a good fit for you, anyways. Just saying. So that said, be mindful, right? Of who you are, knowing your skill set, knowing what you bring to the table. When you remind yourself of this, man, most of the time you give yourself a boost. You don't need an external boost from someone when you look at what it is you're able to put on the table. And I know I still have those moments, and I have these flashbacks of moments, when I'm like, I remember when. You're like, woo, that gives you that confidence, that reminder, that boost of what it is you're actually capable of doing because you've already done it, right? Moving into the next position, job, opportunity, business, whatever it is, yes, it may be new, but you're building on a foundation of solid things that you can reflect upon to help you moving forward. Don't ever forget that. Getting lots of comments here. Okay. Hi, Sean. Thanks. um, so so there's that. Now, so that's your first thing. Know who you are, know your skill sets, and believe in them. The second thing follows the first very closely, which is you have to be willing and able to tell your story. No one can tell your story like you can. And when you sit down and you start reflecting on the things that you have done, how you have gotten them done, the circumstances under which you've gotten them done, wow, like that ought to feed your soul and boost your confidence a hundredfold. There are still moments in my career that I look back on and I'm like, I have no idea how we got that done, but we did. And I take great pride in it, knowing the obstacles that were overcome. I use those stories often when I'm helping my clients and helping them to understand something and how they can tell their story better. When I'm talking to people, when I'm doing public presentations, I use those stories to help boost not just my confidence at that time, but showing people, hey, guess what? If I dealt with this and could overcome it, so can you. All right. And that is so important when you're transitioning, because again, you need to know those things. You need to be reminded of them. But guess what? Not just to keep them in here. You need to be able to collect those stories and to be able to recount them and to tell them so that they can help people and help yourself in that transition period. And it's not about trying to remember 15 different things because you're probably not going to be able to. But if you even take the time out, you know how I feel about reflection time. It's really important to do it. And when you're in the midst of a career transition, it's absolutely crucial that you take regular reflection time. All right. So that's your reflection time, reminder. That's going to become a thing, right? Reflection time reminder. And so you want to be able to identify at least 3 to 5 stories that you can utilize in your transition conversations. All right. And you want to sit down and really give some thought. You don't want surface level things like, well, I was able to, raise revenue by $100,000 in X number of weeks and blah, blah, blah. No, no, no. Let's talk about what it took to make that happen. Let's talk about the fact that you were in the midst of a hurricane, you had zero staff, you were in the midst of hiring people, and oh, by the way, you have to like create a whole new set of rules in order to pull this off. That little flex, those little facts that I mentioned are something that absolutely happened to me in the midst of a major transition where I had taken on a huge responsibility in the organization I was working with. The staff was demoralized. It was just a mess. And a hurricane hit in the midst of me replacing the management team. True story. I tell no lies. All right. So that experience for me, like there are so many stories that I can tell from that career opportunity and that transition period that help someone to understand really what I'm capable of doing, the skill set that I have to work under pressure, to work in the midst of a crisis, to deal with, demoralized staff who's undercompensated, right? Those are not things that show up on the resume. That comes about as a part of your conversation. So identify those 3 to 5 stories that will help you to add some depth to what's on the piece of paper so that people will be able to understand really who you are and what you're capable of. But you have to be willing and able to tell the story. And so you don't get uncomfortable with that because some people are like, oh, I shouldn't be bragging on myself. That's not bragging if it's the truth. I hate when people say, I'm like, oh, I don't want to brag. So it's not bragging if it's the truth. If it's the truth, you need to be willing and able to talk about it and move past that sense of false, I don't even know what word to use, but when people try to shame you because you're telling about what you know and what you do. Don't let anybody shame you out of your power. That's a whole other different conversation. Are we're gonna yeah, I'm getting ideas for more stuff. Okay. Do not let anyone shame you out of your power. All right. You know who you are. You know what you've done. Be willing and able to talk about it. Because if you aren't an advocate for yourself, who's going to be the advocate for you? And I'm a strong, strong believer in being an advocate for yourself. Okay. All right. So that is number 2. Tell your story. Number 3, you know where we're headed, y'all, because it's me. I'm all about networking and relationship building. Number 3, you have to stay connected. And here's how staying connected helps you transition with confidence. When you stay connected to people in your network, your professional relationships, and all of that, that gives you again a reminder of the weight that you carry, the influence, the support that you have. That sometimes your experiences will kind of beat you down and you can forget about. But when you stay connected to your people, that helps to reinforce what it is you do actually do, what you can do, the influence that you have. Last week, I put up a post that was really just kind of like a culmination over the last couple of weeks. It had been a rough couple of weeks in both good and bad ways, right? There had been some deaths, in our community. There were lots of things going on professionally where I was suddenly like, all of my old clients were coming back talking about, hey, we need help, which is a great thing, right? But it can get to be a lot. And so I put a post up about that and saying, hey, you know what? You just have to like keep putting one foot in front of the other. We all have those moments and it's okay. You all, my phone and messages started blowing up. And not because it started blowing up from quote close friends and family. No, It started blowing up from other people in my professional network, my new besties that I've developed relationships with over the last couple of years. Some old clients, people who are like, there's a little something going on there, and wanted to check and just say, hey, thinking of you, saw your post, let me know if there's anything I can help you with. All right. Here's the thing. I was not expecting that. That's not why I put the post. I put the post out there to be supportive and to let people know, hey, regardless of what's going on, you can still do it. You can still make it. Take time to reflect and breathe, and then let's go. What I received unexpectedly is the gift of caring and people reaching out to make sure that I'm like, you're good, right? Or and then have ended up having a conversation that went on. And this happened all week long off of one post. So imagine if you're in the midst of a transition and you actually let your people know, hey, I'm in the midst of this. I may be reaching out, or I would love to get some advice or whatever. Imagine what you can gather and the support that you can get when you deliberately make an effort to stay connected to your people. Maintaining relationships in your professional outlets, whether it's community based, whether it's, you're from previous jobs, whatever, is crucial to your professional growth. I cannot say it too often. I will always sing that song. I believe it strongly. And every day, the truth of it comes back to bear witness. Okay? Stay connected to your people. Do not abuse them. Do not ignore them. That will come back to you. But instead, stay connected, nurture them, reach out to people. Because when you reach out to people, guess what? When it's turnabout fits fair play, they'll reach out to you and can provide you with support in ways that you don't even know yet. Okay. And that is super important in the midst of transitions. I have been able to reach out to my network over the years multiple times when I was transitioning professionally. And I cannot even begin to tell you how powerful it is. Even today, with my whole, list of new business besties that I've developed over the course of the last couple of years, how incredible it is to be able to reach out, send a message to someone, say, hey, you got time for a chat? Because like this here is really blowing my mind and I need to make sure I'm not crazy. And they're like, yeah, let's schedule time to get on the phone. Or getting the follow-up call of, hey, we haven't talked in a minute. I'm checking in. Let's get on a call. Or guess what? We can actually meet in person now. Let's try and schedule some time to see each other. Okay. Staying connected boosts your personal morale. It boosts the morale of the person you're connecting with. And it helps you to know that, number one, that you have people who care. I call them, the folks in your fan club, right? It's always great to have a few people in your fan club and who will cheer you on through the good times, through the rough times, but they're there to support you. Okay. So it's super important, but you only get that if you stay connected, nurture your relationships, reach out to others before you need them. That is the key. All right. There we are. Oh my gosh, that time went fast today. Yeah. Okay, so we were talking about career transitioning with confidence. I love this. I'm going to do a little bit follow up on this. Certainly, some of the topics in there, you may see a couple of posts or two because I feel a little strongly about some of those things. And let me know if you need some support in any way. We can always get on a call for a quick consult conversation. I'm working through some new opportunities. And so I'm looking forward to sharing that soon. And if you need anything, just reach out, let me know, or you want to comment below, and I will chat with you guys later. Take care. Bye bye.